What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to season 2 of the Way Too Clutch podcast, where we focus on everything faith, family, fitness, and mindset. And it's been amazing. I had a couple of episodes that we did last season, and I kind of ran into a little bit of a time to where I wanted to ask myself, is this something I want to continuously do, put time and effort into it? Because it is a one-man show, one-man production. And it's just a guy sitting in his office pouring his thoughts into a microphone to get him out, and it's very therapeutic. And I think it's been about a year since I really been on this mission. It's very close to a year, coming up on a year in the next month or so. And I think as I reflect on the last year, I kind of really enjoy doing this and being out in the world over this past summer, having conversations with people. You never really realize the impact that your vulnerability makes on the world. So, running into a lot of you all and getting your feedback in all of your positive words and how you guys missed the episodes. Even though I only did like 3 or 4 episodes last season, I think it's important that this, even if it impacts one person's life, to continuously be consistent with it and give people some sort of something to look forward to. So what I want to do is, over the last couple of months, I've really accumulated a couple of questions and things that people have been asking very consistently, and I do want to make sure that I have information. And I was literally just speaking with somebody about this podcast, and they watched the last episode, and people talk about how good it is. And I gotta not think so much myself about how somebody was going to receive it, but just know that it's going to be out there forever for somebody eventually, right? So, the question that I've gotten the most, especially via social media, is how is my faith journey going? So I'll give you a little bit of a recap, and this is probably going to be, if this is your first time listening to me at all, um, for me, I started this journey about 10 months ago with recording a podcast. What happened to me at that particular point in time was I went through an extremely rough separation with somebody who I was with for several years, 4 or 5 years. And it took a toll on me. If I'm being honest, like I cried for, I had these moments of crying and emotional trauma for like 90 days straight consecutively. We separated in early September. And so here we are. Today is August 18th, 2024. So coming up on a year of being separated. And at that particular point in time, I was led back to church. And here's kind of where the connection for a lot of people is the same. Whenever we're torn down and we're broken, whenever we're experiencing turmoil or stress, it's so easy for us to run to church. It's so easy for us to run to God. It's so easy for us to go get baptized. And, that's when it's the easiest and it's the most convenient. And for me, I was led there. I believe that, the Holy Spirit led me to go back to church because everything that I was seeing, all the information I was looking for, because I was broken down, but I wasn't really hurt, uh, like completely because of the person who left me. Like that was already tough enough. I think I had finally realized at this particular point in my life, I did not know how to be a good partner. I didn't know how to be a good boyfriend. I didn't know. Um, it was so much that I just didn't know. And I was frustrated and fed up. And I'm 36 at the time, 35 at the time, I believe, 35 at the time, about to be 36, and just trying to figure out, man, like I need to figure out what it means to be a good partner. And so going on that journey led me back to the Bible, which led me to go to church. And the day I walked in the church during praise and worship, before words were even really said, just as music in my ears, and I just had such an amazing release of guilt, so much release of trauma, so much release of all the baggage that was weighing me down, and the feeling of unworthiness. Like I had all of that that for once it felt like it was lifted from me. Got baptized that November. did so much work. I had got a therapist. I was doing like the whole BetterHelp thing online. I was doing all kind of practices. Um, and I was, I don't want to call it newfound faith to diminish it, but like the newfound faith that I had come across, like I was very outward with what I was doing because I have a, decent social media platform, and, that influence was out there. People were really looking for, how do you get through certain things? And once things got better, that's when I think it got the hardest. So that's what today's episode is. I get asked like, how's your faith journey going? I'm gonna say this: it is so easy to be faithful when your world is upside down. But what do you do when everything is okay? When you don't have a lot of stress, when you don't have emotional damage, when life is okay? It may not be great, but it's not traumatic like once was before. When you lose a loved one, or you go through a divorce or a separation or a breakup, or a miscarriage, or all these traumatic events that will lead you back to church to renew your faith. What happens when you renew your faith and you're okay? When everything maybe not perfect, but what happens when you're okay? The world gets to you again, right? Because you don't feel like you're hiding from everybody. You still laugh throughout the day. You have good days. You have some up and down days, but the music of today and the Instagram and the social medias of today, you start to consume it a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. Soon you find yourself almost back to where you were before all the trauma happened. You're not reading your Bible as much. You're inconsistent with going to church. And I'm speaking about myself, right? This is something that I noticed. I noticed that once I got over the breakup, and once I got over like actually being able to be in the same space with her, whether it was by accident or whatever the case may be, once I got over that traumatic, emotion, like that emotional trigger that was happening, once I got over that, I noticed that I kind of started to regress. When you immediately make change, like you go all in. But I was going to church every Wednesday. I was going to church every Sunday, 9 a.m., taking my daughters. I was reading my Bible every single morning, and trying to comb through the Bible and getting my own, synopsis of, what it actually meant, and, getting my own understanding of the Old Testaments. I was heavy into it, right? Making a lot of these videos in my most vulnerable state. And then as life progressed, as I got better, as different fortunes started to come my way, business started to go up, you're dating again, so you're feeling like, you're feeling on top of the world. Kids are great. You have all kind of great things going on in your life, and you don't feel bogged down. And so you don't necessarily have to run anywhere for that release. And when you don't have to run to church every week to get that release, you start to slowly fade back into the world. And I think this is the fundamental change that I had. The fundamental change that I particularly had was that I was aware now. I think most people just aren't aware when they start to backslide. And whenever I was feeling myself like cursing a little bit more again, or having secular thoughts or sexual thoughts, and I was always catching myself and like, okay, bro, you got to get back on it. So, intentionally forcing myself. It's like the gym was like church, right? I maybe I don't want to go today, but I gotta go. You have less chances to slip because church is 2 days, right? The gym you can go every day. If you don't go one day, you can make it up. But church is like you miss Sunday, it's like okay. And I remember how obsessed I was at the beginning, and it was a genuine obsession with um everything that I listened to, everything that I watched. It was all about, some sort of religious something, relationship goals, kingdom this, kingdom that. And then I got to a point to where it just was not as much. And I think I came to a conclusion like not that long ago that I have to learn to be able to do something for a sustainable period of time. I think it's like dieting. Whenever you extreme diet, you can do just fine for 30 days, maybe get through a month or two of extreme dieting. Um, or if you're, you want to lose a bunch of weight, or you want to start getting in the gym and you don't ease into it, you just dive straight into it. And, after a while, you're like, okay, I don't want to run 100 miles an hour, every day. It's like, sprinters and track and field, it's like you have to pace yourself. This life is a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? You hear that all the time. But what does that mean? That means you can't do life all out. You have to pace yourself. And you have moments to where you have to pick it up. And then you have moments to where you can pace yourself. But life is not an all out sprint. Life is not a 100-meter dash. It's the longest race you'll ever have in your entire life. And so you got to do things that you could be consistent at. You have to be a certain kind of way, or evolve into a kind of person that the things that you do on a weekly basis, you can sustain at that level for many, many years. And so I think the easiest thing for me to do was to make a couple of commitments. And that commitment is church every Sunday. And what I figured about going to church every Sunday, it was always served as a reset and a reminder of the commitments that I made. It always served as a reset and a reminder, whether the message was for me or not. During praise and worship today, today's Sunday, right? So even during praise and worship today, I was just like, okay, I gotta be more disciplined. I'm thinking about the things in the past week that I was like not as disciplined as I should have been. And I'm gonna tell you like the biggest impact that it's made on me. I have so much discernment in my life now. And like for me, I'm not going to ever talk about myself too crazy, but I'm a decently attractive individual. And the way that I am with my kids and my business, and the just my outward approach to life when it comes to my openness and vulnerability. And then of course the physical aspect of everything, 6'3" bodybuilder, whatever. Like I have all of these things coupled into one, so I garnish a good amount of attention. And what I've learned to do, like, give you guys a good example, right? There's somebody on, most of the time it's on social media, because when I meet people and we meet people nowadays, we meeting them on social media. They're living in different places in different stages of their life. And I met somebody in the business that ran, like it wasn't anything more than conversation, but there was obvious physical attraction there was a lot of similarities. But one of the things that I learned, and I read, and I'm kind of going back and trying to do deep dives into, what's this Audible? An Audible that I really recommend for you men out there for sure. Let me just pull it up real quick. The Rational Male. As women can read that joint too, to be honest, to understand. But as I'm going through Rational Male, it really talks about the idea of long distance relationships not really being a thing. And for me, I had to be honest with myself. I can tell a girl all she wants to hear about how I'll be available, and if you want to make it work, you'll make it work. And it's like, I'm not gonna overextend myself. I ain't even gonna lie. It's extremely difficult to build connection with somebody when you have other things going on in your life. Do long distance relationships work? They can, if you don't have any other responsibilities outside of work. If I didn't have any obligations outside of work, and I had freedom like that, yeah, I could definitely see myself, like, if it came down to it, making a long distance relationship work. But I have kids and I have local responsibilities. I have leadership responsibilities here. I can't pick up, and it's not even worth it for anything to pick up and just be gone all the time. So I realized very quickly that I can't do a long distance relationship, no matter how I feel about you. And I talked about it before. Like, I was very specific when I said that I wanted kids. I want the woman that I choose to be a, God fearing woman. And that sounds like whatever. But very specifically, I want her to understand, what God's provision for women in the household is, because I'm really on this journey of studying what it means to be a man inside of a household based on biblical principles and what God told us we had to be and we should be. That's why I've taken the courses that I have. And so I have to have somebody that is at least, maybe they're not there yet, because we're never always there, but somebody who's willing to take that journey. And I'm meeting people and the attraction is there. It's always, well, I can't have kids anymore. Well, one of my things is I want to have a son. yeah, okay, I don't care how attracted that I am to you. And I think that's a huge piece of it for me, was getting that discernment when it came to picking women and partners, going on dates, who to spend my time with. Because that becomes like one of the biggest challenges. Everything does not boil down to men and women, I understand, but one of God's highest man honors is companionship between men and women. And I think for me, I had to slow down and not allow myself, because when you open up to the world and you become vulnerable on a spiritual level, the kind of women that you attract, it will blow your mind, or the kind of partner that you will attract. So for me, in this this faith-based journey that I've been on, if I had to give anybody any advice or warn them of anything, I think the thing that you have to be attached to is you have to have a lot of purpose. You have to have a bigger why, because you have to realize what we're consumed with most. And here's the kicker. The kicker is, you have to remember, what goes into your eyes and in your ears comes out of your mouth and into your emotions. I said this before, and I want y'all to remember this. Now I'm going to say it again. What goes into your eyes, what you allow yourself to see, and what goes into your ears, what you allow yourself to hear, comes out in your actions and your words. And you have to stand guard at those things, right? Like, you got to ask yourself, have you ever been around your cousins in a different part of the United States that you aren't usually used to hanging around with, and it's a family reunion, or y'all on a trip together, and you have a couple of cousins who have like very choice language, like they speak and they say things like this whole period thing, right? Like, you around somebody enough and you keep hearing it, you will find yourself saying it on accident, right? Because you hear it so much. Or just like with clothing, right? You see something all the time. What you're like submitting yourself to is visually is seeing these. So you start to dress like what you see. What looks good to you. You start talking like you're the music that you're allowing in your ears. And one of the things that you have to do when you're on a faith-based journey, and you're choosing to like not want to curse as much, and you're wanting to monitor the things that you say and how you act, you got to monitor what you're allowing yourself to see. What I had to do, a couple of things: unfollow a lot of pages on social media, change your algorithm. Some of us don't even have the discipline, because we much rather be entertained than disciplined. So you won't unfollow Justin LeBoy's page. You won't unfollow Shade Room. You won't unfollow the gossip blog. Like, for me, I don't see it unless people repost it, right? Because I just choose to not have my algorithm filled with that. Not There was a point in time to where my algorithm was filled with like half naked gym chicks all the time, right? Because like I'm just double tapping and double tapping and double tapping, and then I stopped, and like now my algorithm is crazy. Like, there's a lot of fraternity stuff, because that's something that I've been looking at. But then there's a lot of like marriages and proposals, a lot of travel, a lot of relationship based stuff, and a lot of I don't want to call it spiritual like type of workout montages, but I see it all like the sermons and people working out and going through their emotional thing. That's a lot of the things that pop up for me now. And I realize too, when I'm in a relationship with somebody and I'm allowing my visual to be obscured by all of these other like temptations, yeah, I'll start to question things. And now I'm used to seeing it. Now I'm used to like second nature, just double tapping, liking all these girls' photos. Like it, and then next thing you know, like you're sexualizing women, and then now you're objectifying women. And so one of the things that you want to avoid is the things that are not in alignment with where you're going. You have to have the discipline to say, okay, I need to watch what I allow myself to see on social media every day, right? Cool. First thing. Next thing is, what kind of music are you allowing yourself to listen to? Right now, not no lie, rap music, hip hop music, it kind of like makes me feel like really weird when I'm listening to it, because of the things that they talk about. I'm like, like I love great instrumentation, great beats. I'm a music instrumentation, like that's my thing. That was like some of the early stuff that I did in my life. Um, but a lot of the music bothered me. Like, it was like we're in 2024, right? And one of my favorite artists is Drake, and the whole Drake and Kendrick thing. It was some songs that I couldn't even get through because one is I'm listening to it and I really felt crazy that it was two grown men talking about each other like that. And then I think it was like the Meet the Graham song or something like that. And I couldn't even get past because I could not believe that these two adult men were talking to each other like this. I couldn't in real life. I just could not conceptualize myself listen to it. It felt wrong. And I think when you're trying to live your life right, the wrong things that come and show their face, they won't feel right to you at all. And you'll want to walk away, or you'll want to get rid of it, or you'll want to change. For me, I started listening to a lot of Afro beats. I listen to Afro beats. I have a Sunday service playlist. I've already liked R&B music anyways. So for me, I really had to monitor what I was allowing myself to listen to. And then three, which is probably the most difficult to change, is the people that you're around. You might have to look, if you want to elevate and change your life, you may have to look at and evaluate your circle and the people who you're allowing to be in your space every day. And it may take you getting a completely different circle. It may take everybody who you've been allowing to be around you for you to move around, because it may be your own fault by putting yourself in these spaces to where you are just getting nothing but negative energy all the time. It may not be like super negative, but it may not be positive either. It may not be uplifting you neither. It may be that you're surrounding yourself with people who complain all the time. You may be that you're surrounding yourself with people who don't like to work out, don't like to eat healthy, don't like to go to church, and you'll find yourself doing what you allow yourself to be around. You become your environment. It's nature versus nurture. It's a real thing. That doesn't just apply to us as kids. It applies to us in general throughout our life. So the things that you allow yourself to nurture you eventually become. So that's why rewind that point, it's important that you have some sort of church or fellowship that you go to on a weekly basis, because it served as at least a reminder. This is why, for me, I wanted my kids to go to church. I was more excited for them to go to church than myself, because I knew that I wanted them to at least be around. I can't control what they're doing at their school and what other people are teaching their kids, but I knew at least for one day out of the week, they were going to be around positivity. They were going to be around people who are teaching them. Like my daughter we talked about Peter walking on water today. Like I asked them what they learned. And this is one thing that I love so much. I love the fact that when my daughter started telling me the story about, Peter, that I already knew the story because I read it. Like I actually got it. It's in the earlier chapters. Actually, I think I read that story of Peter, John, the book of John. First, yeah, I think that was when I read the story of Jesus's life. Is his life before the crucifixion. And so, but for me to understand what she's talking about, and we were able to have a conversation about it, for me that felt great. And so at that particular point in time, I really realized like I have to continuously allow myself to be submerged around positivity. And one of the hardest things for me that I had to do was tell a couple of my friends, it's like, look, I just really can't be around you like that no more, because I don't wish to live my life like you. I want to be a husband. I want to be a father. I want to be a spiritual biblical follower of what Jesus, in a weird way, but I actually think that is a great way to live. It's a great way to live, to be a great man to your family. It's a great way to live, to be a great husband to your wife, and to have your wife be a phenomenal partner. I think there's nothing more. I am so obsessed with seeing powerful couples, like powerful men, be uplifted by their women and don't look like they're miserable. I'm obsessed with seeing men take care of these women who would take care of them. And now, because I see that when I'm like, I don't know, scouting, vetting, whatever it is, trying to figure out, the real and the fake between, a lot of these women who I have conversations with, it really ultimately boils down to my standards that I have based on what I see and based on what I've read. And if I see those wife qualities, it's like I don't have to worry about doing too much as a man and simping and all of that. If I have, a wife who's already in alignment with who she's supposed to be, it's crazy, And I'll end on this story here because as far as this whole relationship thing goes, right? And one of my guys that I knew in my it was a men's sprint group, right? He's another guy who works out a lot. He was single at the time of our men's sprint, which was back in October of last year. He was giving his perspective, as a leader from a male's perspective of being a single man. And about 2 weeks ago, he got engaged. Mind you, that's 9 months, 10 months. And what I'm thinking about is like, how can somebody go from, being single and not dating to engaged and married in 10 months? And the thing of it is, when you approach a situation and you're ready to be something, you're going to give off that energy immediately. And one of my biggest downfalls in my previous relationships were, especially in this last one, I'll just speak on that. When I walked into the relationship, I'm dating because I really like her and I'm attracted to her, whether it's physically or mentally, I'm attracted to her, right? And I'm dating because of that. I have no intentions on saying I'm dating to be a husband. I'm not even walking around talking about I want to be a husband. In my mind, that stuff just happens naturally. You'll eventually get to the point to where you understand. But what ends up happening is I meet a woman who is ready to be a wife. So she starts acting like a wife from day one because she's ready. And I made her feel bad because I'm like, well, no, we need to work towards that. We need to wait until it's earned and all kind of nonsense, right? But in my mind, I was right at that time. But two things can be right. I was completely in alignment with where I was at in my life. She was completely in alignment with where she was at. For me, I'm not dating for anything serious. For her, she's dating to be a wife. And we're both acting like that. So over time, what happens is she's not getting what she wants, and I'm not getting what I want. And as we go towards the idea and possibility for me of her being my wife, she's going far and far away from the possibility of me being her husband. And we cross paths, and now she's over here and I'm over here, and now I'm doing all of these husband things, and she's not doing any of the wife things because she didn't get it. So there's a miscommunication that's happening there because I'm out of alignment with where I was supposed to be. But you want to know why I was out of alignment? It goes back to the conversation. It was who I was surrounding myself with. Right? The difficulties of living a faith-based life is because you're not surrounding yourself with people who are good husbands and who can pour into you and tell you who you're supposed to be to women who deserve to be wives. And so for me, I was around a bunch of, hyper masculated men, I'm going to say, these were the kind of guys who were the very, very pro, polygamous lifestyle. Some of them were thinking about that, and other of them were, hey, you can't really simp to the simping word. And I was around, I'm not even gonna call them red pill males, but like almost feminists in a sense, and that's just kind of what I was surrounding myself by. And because I wasn't strong enough to know the kind of man that I needed to be. I was not strong enough to even have the understanding of knowing what I wanted. And it was crazy that I say that now because during my relationship, so many times she asked me, what do you want? What do you want? And I'm like, I want you. What you've asked me this question for? Like, I told you what I want. I'm here. And she's like, you ain't even hearing the question. And that would lead to confusion and argument sometimes. But now I understand, like, when you take time to be by yourself, you get to understand yourself. And I think it's so cliche. Don't look over what I just said. Are you okay being by yourself for extended periods of time to where you're only doing the things that feel good to you? You're spending time in environments that serve you, not you're just being around other people and you're bouncing energy off that is in alignment with yourself. And next thing you know, you don't even recognize yourself. I love the things that I love, and I'm not gonna let anybody make me feel weird for loving my, R&B music and my rom-coms and my super goofy movies and being a complete goofball, acting like a kid at heart. I'm not gonna let anybody talk like just like I'm not gonna let anybody talk about me for the way that I eat and my dieting style. Like it made me into a fantastic human physically and mentally. So for me, I am okay with being by myself. And I think so many people are afraid of being by themselves that they don't even understand who they are. They've let everybody else in their life define their character. They let the world define who they are instead of saying, I get to define who I am. I get to choose the things that make sense to me and the things that I'm happy about. And if nobody's going to come along with me, it's okay because eventually I'll find the circles, the spaces, and places and the people that are in alignment with this kind of life that I want. That's what people have to do. And for me, I was so glad that I took the sabbatical away from everything. I left social media and I got in touch with myself. And when I came back, I realized there are certain people, places, and circles that I cannot involve myself in anymore because they're going to take me back. This is why it's so hard for people to live a faith-based life because it requires separation sometimes for elevation. It requires the removal of one thing and the addition of other things. It will require you to do things that are uncomfortable versus the things that everybody else is doing. You got to find a way to tap into you and be in alignment with your own spirituality and be in line with your own physical. And that's how I've been able to maintain at least some segments of this faith-based lifestyles because I'm not easily persuaded. I read the Bible. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I am in touch with what it means to be a biblical husband. I don't care about the next man's opinion. I don't care about what anybody has to say because at the end of the day, what is it if I decide to be like how somebody else wants me to be? What do I become? Them? People that I don't wish to aspire to be. And more men being like this and being open to being vulnerable, but also being open to be leaders, there's special power in that. So for me, welcome to season 2 of the Way Too Clutch podcast. My objective this season is to be honest, to give you guys a little bit of a reflection of what it actually means to be very consistent in your walk with your faith and understand who you are and not who the world wants you to be. See you guys next time.